All right, this is everything shipped to me for the month of September 2021. Starting with the X-Men, as always, right now. Not too big of a stack. There's one issue that's like the end. There's one off, so it'll kind of get smaller. I think a lot of these books are ending or coming to like major ends near the end of the year because Jonathan Hickman is leaving the X-Men. So I got some choices to make because I've been reading the X-Men for this long purely because Jonathan Hickman's been writing it. He kicked things off just over 2 years ago with House of X, Power of 10, and I really love Jonathan Hickman. So I was like, I'm going to just read all the X-Men books as long as he's on it because I'm in for the wild ride. Um, he's leaving the book without really ending his, I guess, his full dream. I don't want to say that. It's not like he's leaving in bad terms. He really loves working with everybody who's currently on the books. It's just, I guess, Marvel and other writers like, man, things are going so well. Let's just keep, not even the status quo, let's just keep this period kind of moving on. They've got his notes, I guess, so they'll make changes, but he's only got one more series and then he's done, which, like I said, is December. So, Hellions at the top of the stack. I've always really liked Zeb Wells. This has been a really fun book. Of all the X-Men books, I'm really glad I kept reading this one. It's been a ton of fun. New Mutants. This book overall has been hit or miss in all the 2 years I've been reading it. There's a lot of good highs and some like okay issues, nothing bad. I like it. What I really like about this era of X-Men is there's an X-Men book for everybody. You don't have to read them all. There might be some that just is not your taste. Excalibur. This one is not one of my favorite X-Men books. It's not bad. It's I like all the characters who are in it. Except for Gambit, but it's fine. Nothing too crazy. I thought it could have been. I thought it'd get a bit more of a bump after the X of Swords, since that took place in Otherworld, and this book is all about mutants in Otherworld. Doctor Doom's in this issue. I think that's probably a big tease, but I don't know. They deal with magic, and he is a pretty strong magic user. X-Force, also one of my favorite X-Men books of the new era. It's a ton of fun. My only complaint, and it's a minor one, they set up a lot of villains, and then they don't really have any like major conclusion. It's like they're completely defeated or taken off the board, which is fine. It's good introducing new X-Men villains, since really all the villains that were mutants are now, well, good guys. See Hellions, for example. I'm pretty sure that's Forge on the cover, but I don't know. I really don't know who that is, but we'll find out probably. And Beast's in trouble. Beast is always in trouble, so watch out. Marauders, also one of my favorite X-Men books. This is like in my top 4 for sure. I really like Kitty Pryde as an X-Men character, and this has just been a really fun book. So I would keep, if I wasn't dedicated to reading all the X-Men books, this is one I would definitely keep. Trial of Magneto. This is first issue was really cool. I'm very curious to see what the mystery is behind who killed Scarlet Witch. Magneto tried to leave the island, and then Quicksilver showed up out of nowhere and just beat the snot out of him to an inch of his life. So he's kind of like comatose. Magneto's not comatose. And usually kind of ends with, I think it's Cyclops. I can't remember off the top of my head, but someone shows up to tell the Avengers that, oh yeah, hey, by the way, Wanda's dead. And we think it's Magneto, but he's cool. He's with us on our mutant island that you can't come to. So just trust us, So that'll be cool. I mentioned last issues. This is the last issue of X-Corp. I've said that before about some X-Men books, so there might be an issue 6, but I'm pretty sure this is the last issue. This book's been kind of cool. More so on the side, I like the idea of being able to see more of the corporate side of what's been going with all this stuff with Krakoa, because they keep talking about all these companies they have that help funnel their super drugs to the rest of the world. So it's been nice getting more tips on that. But if this was more aligned with how X-Men were in like the 80s and 90s, this would not be its own series. This would be one like backups. You'd have like one issue be split as two, part 1 and part 2 in the other books. You'd be like, you got to get X Factor and X Force this month to get the newest chapter of X Corp, and then the following month would be like New Mutants and I don't know, the X Daniels or X Dreams or some other X-Men title. X-Men's been another good book. I really like this new run. Jerry or Gary, I'm gonna say Gary. Gary Duggan's been doing a good job. Pepe Larraz and art's fantastic. He obviously kicked off with the House of X stuff too. We gotta, which I really like there. But it's just really fun. It's the X-Men being superheroes, which is fun, and they're fighting the High Evolutionary right now, which is really cool. There's an overall like villain plot where there's like this like casino on the edge of a black hole, and they're like making bets about the destruction of the Earth, and the X-Men keep showing up and stopping what they're doing. So that's fun. And the Onslaught Revelation. So this is a one shot, but it's kind of the way of X is done. I didn't realize it was just ending, but this is like the next issue in the story. So Legion and Nightcrawler are still teaming up to try and stop Onslaught from appearing because they realize that there's a piece of an Onslaught in every mutant who's being reborn. So every time a mutant dies and they clone them or they bring them back, there's a little bit of Onslaught. So it's getting stronger. This issue is just a one shot, and then this ends, and it's going to spin into something else, which I'm sure comes out after January. And I mentioned January because Inferno. This is the last Hickman X-Men story for the time being. He said, but I don't think he's coming back. And then clearly that's Moira on the cover with like the Quiet Council who govern Krakoa. So obviously some things are going to major shakeups, but this ends in December. So clearly everything's leading up to December, and then new books will kick off. I'm sure like X-Men will stick around, but probably Hellions, probably X-Force, but I feel like some other books are wrapping up, but we'll see. More on that. Sword, I like this book, and I say I want to like it. I don't mean it in a bad way. It's just I don't feel this is issue 8 because of the other tie-ins. I don't feel this book is really a time to find its feet, and it's a shame because I love the premise of it, especially now that they have the mutants basically terraform Mars and it's now a mutant planet, and Storm's the queen of it. And yes, give me more of this. Hopefully this issue, they're teasing that Storm is doing Storm stuff, and I hope it is Storm centric. I want to see more of her as the queen and ruler of an entire planet. She's had some cool moments where like Doom visits her to train. She's just like, oh, you think you're, this is my planet, Doom. Don't mess around me. Same thing with Black Panther. She's like, hey, we used to be. And he's like, no, I'm not taking anything from nobody. And lastly, Wolverine. I really like this Wolverine run from the beginning. It's been a ton of fun. Wolverine's just doing fun little side stories. And I read Wolverine a ton over my 20 years reading comic books, and I always like a good Wolverine run, so I've been really happy with this one. But as I mentioned, I've read the the Marvel solicitations for December. They came with this shipment as well in the previews, and a lot of these books seem to be coming to an end. Like it really hinted that New Mutants is speaking a new chapter, so I think this story arc ends and they kick off. Excalibur seemed like the same thing. X-Force was kind of hit or miss. Marauders hinted at new stuff. So I feel like they're kind of wrapping things up in a lot of books. So whatever is the follow-up from Inferno carries forward into the next chapters. So if I want to stop reading X-Men, December is a good month to just stop. That's a bit of a rant, but when you're reading a comic book for like a couple of years, it can be kind of hard to let it go. You just, I've read a lot of comic books through some really bad runs. I was like, but it's going to get better eventually. Not that any of these books are like that. I'm like, man, I really should stop reading this. I have really enjoyed them all, but I promised myself, once I'm reading Hickman stuff, and I'm going to walk away because I try not to read a lot of superhero comics. And he's done, so I guess I should end it, but because there's the thing is, when I look at the X-Men books, I really enjoyed them. They've been a ton of fun, but in the normal book stack, there are books in here I'm just like, I look forward to reading this. There's only a few X-Men books that are like that. They're all fun. The whole story is really engaging. Like, I'll probably keep following Marvel Unlimited or something, but this is what I look forward to. Well, actually, yeah, specifically this issue. I really love Usagi Yojimbo. This is such a fun book. This is sort of a new arc. He went home to try and like see some friends. That did not work out well because he's not really allowed to be there, so he's on the run. And this one's called Ransom, so I'm sure someone's gonna get kidnapped, and it's up to good old Usagi to help them out. Hellboy and the BPRD, 1957. I really like the BPRD books where they kind of specify like the year. You get a real sense of like the time of the BPRD, and Hellboy's because he's been around since roughly the end of World War II. So. This I thought for a second was Liz. I love this cover, by the way. If I thought, oh, he's gonna go to Liz, but like, well, Liz actually burned her house down. She was an orphan, and she was definitely not alive in 1957. So, but I'm sure it'll be pretty fun. I'm looking forward to it. More Black Hammer spin-offs, Black Hammer Visions. I love David Rubin. I love his art. Big fan of his. I'll buy almost anything. I say almost because I don't know. I buy almost everything he does, so I'm missing some things. Scott Snyder. I'm hit or miss on him as a writer. I like him as a writer. I think he has some really cool ideas. Just sometimes he has a problem wrapping a story up. So this is a one-shot. So you shouldn't have that problem because you just get all your ideas in one book and you can just trim the fat and you're fine. Jonah, this is another book I really look forward to reading every month. And her sister got tricked the last issue, and Jonah's now fighting in an underground monster fight club. Like, it's just such a cool idea. I love it. Super fun. Marvel Comics Amazing Fantasy. Again, I've been looking forward to this issue. This series has just been, again, so much fun. It's what I love about comics. Just I really love Marvel What If stuff, and this is what I love about Marvel What If stuff. You just take kind of different characters and different ideas and kind of mash it together in a really fun, cool story. This also is going to be one of the rare superhero comics from like the big two that I'll buy the trade of. I normally don't, even if I really like it. I'll just sit in my boxes. I can always pull it out, but it's going to get the honor because the art is fantastic. I love Carrie Andrews, but it's just such a great story. I want the trade, so I just tell you, like, take this and read it and just enjoy it. You don't need to know too much. Like, everyone knows these characters. Everyone knows who Captain America is. Everyone knows who Black Widow is. Everyone knows who Spider-Man is. So that's all you need to know. You can just read it. It's great. Golem Walks Among Us. The first series of this was really fun, so I'm glad it's wrapping up. And I really like the approach I feel like they're taking with this whole Outerverse stuff now. These are all characters that show up in Lady Baltimore series. So they have these little spin-offs or one-shots where they can give you more backstory of these characters, and then the next Lady Baltimore arc, you don't have to waste any time like, oh, the Golem, right, and this is where he came from and who he is and who he loved and who made him angry. You already kind of know that, and you just can just go and just punch and stuff, which is great. Berserker, another issue. The last one ended on a pretty good note where they spent a couple of issues showing like his origin and where he came from, and then it ends back in the current timeline, and this doctor, one of his handlers, shows up and is like, okay, I'll tell you everything that we know about you. Echo Lands, I had to turn it because this is how you read it. It's the landscape format, which is really cool, and I absolutely loved the first issue of this. It was so much fun. I really love J.H. Williams III, and he proved once again why I did. I actually just read the first issue, so I don't have it in the bag, but I wanted to show this spread. Like, this is a 2-page spread. Most of this issue is just these 2-page spreads, but you can see where it starts here, and in the background, it's all just like one panel of her running through this part of this like town, and they interject like the action bits on top of it, and it just the way it all comes together. It's just, man, you don't see this kind of creativity in a lot of books. Like in this, you get this great establishing shot at the top that carries in the background, and then just pieces together this piece of this crazy character. And this character, she's wild. Yeah. She takes her eye out. It's kind of like a little drone. And at the end, you see like who she is. Yeah, it's cool. It was a great first issue. Like I'm in 100%. The Yoseki Jimbo spinoff, the Dragon Bellow Conspiracy. This is the beginning of kind of like the final act. I think there's only a couple more issues left, but really been digging it. And I really love these covers. Every issue is great covers. Black Hammer Reborn. Still, I love all the Black Hammer stuff, so I'm looking forward to this one. I don't know who this character is, but he's clearly in a laundromat, and he's going to be asked somebody out on a date or something. I don't know, but they're definitely moving towards the Black Hammer returning, but who will be the new Black Hammer? I don't know. We'll have to find out together. Demon Days. This is like an X-Men thing, but I keep it out because the X-Men pile, because it doesn't tie into anything that involves Hickman or Krakoa. And they're always a number one, but they could just do this as one book, and each of these is just a chapter, like a different kind of story. And some of these, like, I'm pretty sure that's the Black Widow, because she did show up in one of the other issues, and pretty sure that's Psylocke. I don't know. I feel like these characters both have been in one of the previous Demon Day books. And then you got Mystique. And I'm pretty sure that's Sabretooth. They go hand in hand. And hey, look, kids, it's Stan Lee. But it's not Stan Lee, but it's kind of meant to be Stan Lee. As I say, this is like a retelling of the history of comics. There was some kind of dirt and grime thrown in there, but you see this one kid's reading like Agents of Wasp, clear rip on Steranko's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. You got Savage Blonde, who I'm pretty sure is supposed to be Sheena, the She-Devil, and then White Lion, which I hope is not supposed to be a play on Black Panther, but I don't know. But there's only a couple issues left. I really like this. If they do a volume 3, it'd be really interesting because it's gonna probably catch up to like the 80s, like the end of the 80s and 90s, which would be interesting because I know Howard Chaykin, like, he did a lot of work and like he knows a lot of the guys that were around in the 60s to the 70s, but does he have a lot of those backroom bar stories from like the Image years? It'd be interesting. I'll pick it up if they do. We only find them when we're dead. This doesn't ship too often, which is fine. No complaints, but I'm really liking this issue. This was a book I almost cut. I got my 6-issue rule. You got 6 issues. You have a slow start, but by issue 6, it's got to pop. Issue 6 really did pop, which is good. And the last 2 issues, including states they did like a time jump. So they spent a lot of time building up this history, and it wasn't boring. But it wasn't enough to be like, if this is what the book's gonna be like, I'm not really into this. But it picked up, which I'm really happy. Defenders. This is just a great, fun Defenders story. The Masked Rider shows up at Stephen Strange's house, like, I need help. He's like, yeah, it's cool. I'll call Defenders. He doesn't call him. He's like, I'm going to cast a spell that brings the Defenders that we need for the task at hand. So that's why he's got this team. And then they get pulled to what is essentially, they get pulled into the universe before the Marvel Universe. So Galactus saw the death of his universe and became Galactus in the birth of the current Marvel Universe. So they're basically where Galactus was originally from, because, the mother of Galactus. They do meet Galactus's mom. The last page of the issues, they're like, oh, Galactus, like, oh no, my son. And then she points out, like, but that's the World Devourer. Like, there's a World Devourer in that universe, and yeah, it sounds kind of confusing, but it's really fun. The Me You Love in the Dark. Good first issue. I really liked it. It's a spooky book, so horror books, you can't just throw everything on the table at the first issue. You gotta build up that tension. So it was good. I really like the art, and I'm a big fan of Scotty Young, so it's good to see him just writing something, and I'm gonna enjoy the series. I can't say nothing bad about the 6 Sidekicks of Trigger Keen. This book just gets better and better. Whatever these 2 creators work on next, I'm picking up day one, like pre-ordering it for sure. Even though there's 6 sidekicks, only 5 of them teamed up, and they're all pretty much in the assumption that the sidekick number 5, this gentleman, or I forget his name. He works in a TV show like Katana Sunrise or something. It doesn't matter, but yeah, they're all pretty convinced that he's the one that either killed Trigger Keen or knows what happened. You also have these really cool side bits of like seeing more of each of the sidekicks and what project they worked on with Trigger. So you see more of how much of a jerk he is, but you see all the just weird plays on like cheesy sci-fi shows and like talking car dramas and stuff like that. It's pretty good. The Unbelievable Unteens, good first issue. Really liked it. I'm big fan of all the Black Hammer stuff, but The Unbelievable Unteens is a comic book that people within Black Hammer read. But then it turns out the creator, she's been writing this book for a long time, and she has an idea how it's going to end, and she's at this comic convention, she goes home, and you see the very sad life of the comic book creator, which is like eating ramen by herself and not making a lot of money. And then this ghost shows up, who's a character from the Unteens, and says like, no, you aren't the creator, you are one of the original Unteens. And what you're writing down are our adventures. You remember this, you were part of it. So he takes her to where they're I guess secret fort, or clubhouse, whatever, where the Unbelievable Teens would hang out in the comic book. It actually exists. So they're now together, teaming up, trying to figure out what actually happens. But she's starting to not so much remember, but because she has this idea of how her comic book is going to go and actually end, he's like, that's not like a story. That actually happened, and we got to try and stop it or prevent it. Bermuda, really digging this book. It's really fun, as I say, adventure stuff. Nick Bratch's art is just killing it. I used to say I wish he'd do a bigger book, like some bigger, more profile, but he worked on X-Men for a long time, so it's cool to see him do his own stuff. And he does some really cool stuff in the back pages where you can see like his pencils compared to the finished inks. And I know he does some stuff digitally when he's inking, but some of the stuff he's showing, like he's doing it old school, like ink on boards, and he's like inking in a bunch of stuff in the background that he didn't pencil. So he's just like, I'm gonna add another pirate here, another lizard dude here, and some stuff. And it's just like, it's great. I absolutely love it. Fight Girls, 10 women, 4 challengers. There's actually only about 4 or 5 women left, and one of them is not who she says she is. So that's some cool stuff in the background. But it's been a really fun book as well. I'll definitely pick up the full size version of this because I really like Frank Cho, and I buy all his stuff in hardcover as well. But they're definitely going to fight a giant shark, and I really like sharks, so looking forward to that issue. The Lost House. The House of Lost Horizons is Sarah Jewel Mystery, the final issue. We're finally going to find out who's the murderer, and they kind of revealed in the last issue that it might just be the husband that she's there to investigate. Like, she was called in to investigate the murder of this woman's husband, and then they found him alive, living in the walls of the house. So whose body's in the basement? It is his. They saw the body. We saw the body in the first issue. So did he use some occult stuff to clone himself, or who knows? But it's cool. It's been a lot of fun. Jupiter's Legacy. I really wish, like, when you get Marvel Comics back in like the 90s, you'd open the first, the cover, and there'd be a little intro like what happened last issue, and here are these people, and like, hey, this is Peter Parker, he's Spider-Man, this is Nick Fury, he's the head of S.H.I.E.L.D., stuff like that, little blurbs. This book really needs that. could probably find it online because I'm unsure if this is the original Star Fox or Star Fox's son. I think it's his son. I'm pretty sure. But because there's so many characters and so many new characters being introduced, I'm having trouble just keeping track of all the family trees. It's like some people are like, oh, that's definitely this person because no one else wore that costume. But a couple people wore that, and there's a bunch of missing stuff. But I'm still really liking this book. It's a ton of fun. It's 12 issues, which is interesting. So it's going to be a long one, but it's fun. And what's really cool is one of the original members who got their powers, she's been going out into space, and she found a planet where the same thing happened on Earth. Instead of 6 strangers going to an island and getting powers, 6 strangers climbed a mountain and got powers. So it's definitely going to sort out who these aliens are and why they're doing this stuff. But I've been really liking it. And then yeah, this is issue 4 of the Red Room. Technically 5 because there was the free comic book day issue, which does actually have an original story, which is cool. But this is the last issue of Red Room for a little bit. It's going to kind of end this arc or series, and it'll come back some point next year. The only thing I'm disappointed in is issue 4 had a Jeff Darrell cover, and I did not know that until after. It was too late to get it, so I could pick it up, but I don't really need it, but it'd be cool to have. I love Jeff Darrell. And then yeah, Scumbag, issue 10. This is coming into another arc, and it's like every time this book has the end arc, I'm like, oh, this is gonna wrap up the story. This is gonna wrap up the book. They're really good at doing that. It's like this just wrapped up all the little things. Couple little like no lingering questions like, oh, cliffhangers. Just like, okay, it'd be interesting if they might touch on that, but they don't need to because it was such a good and conclusive ending. And then the next arc starts up, and so I just don't know. I don't know if this is gonna end or not. It's funny when you read the previews for comics. Marvel comics are like full pages, like here's big art, huge blurb of what's happening, so you kind of guess what the story is, who's the secrets to reveal, and they're telling you if it's the last issue. You read Image previews and it's like the same page, but you have like 6 books. It's just like Scumbag 11 comes out in December. Like, oh, okay. Sometimes they'll tell you it's like the last issue, usually not. And then finally I got the last Ronin, issue 4. I think there's 2 more issues of this, but this should be a good one. You're gonna see what happened between the time of the turtles being killed and the surviving one taking off, and kind of what he did between then and then coming back to New York. So, and I'll definitely pick out the hardcover of this. Like I've said before, like this is clearly, you can see a lot of, just like the Ninja Turtles is like an homage to all the things that Eastman and Laird really liked in comic books at the time. This has more of that. There's definitely like some little sprinkles of like Frank Miller's Ronin, and obviously Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. But I'm really digging it. It's really cool. And then I got 2 trades this month as well. New Batman Black and White. I would say this is probably volume 4, maybe 5, but it's got this cool Greg Capullo cover. But the inside actual hardcover, Josh Middleton, that's a striking cover. That should have been, like, I get it, Greg Capullo, he's really, really popular. Nothing against him. I love his art, but like, if I was just a normal person in like a Barnes and Noble, and I was like, oh, Batman Black and White, interesting. I saw this cover, maybe. This cover, like, dang, that's gonna pop on the shelf. So just saying, DC, make some better choices. But I was actually really surprised by some of the people that are in here. Some mainstays, like you got your John Romita Jr., you've got your Kelly Jones, you've got your where did I see his name? Yeah, Lee Weeks, but I was like, okay, David Aja, pretty good. Nick Bradshaw, I like. Tradmore, okay. Daniel Warren Johnson, I'm interested. Max Muamara, oh right. Sophie Campbell, Becky Cloonan. I was like, okay, they pulling some pretty interesting talents here. I'm really surprised because some of those folks are not people who've really done a lot of DC work, so this should be really fun. I love like anthology books. Oh, I think this is actually the Becky Cloonan. No. Oh, sorry. I saw a name. I was like, no. Oh, Sophie Campbell. This is the Sophie Campbell. Interesting. I really like her stuff on Batman or Ninja Turtles. Sorry. So that's cool. I love anthology stuff. Give me more of this, DC. And then lastly, I got this Gideon Falls. It's a book from Jeff Lemire, and I want to say her name right. Andrea Sorrentino. I really like her art. She's got really interesting. I say interesting, but it's got like, I don't know, it's got a lot of detail, but at the same time, it's kind of loose. But it's good. It's a horror book. I love Jeff Lemire. I'll pretty much get anything Jeff Lemire does. So very much looking forward to that. And that's the main stuff I got this month. But there's one more piece. I got another artist edition. This one is the EC Comics covers artist edition. So it's nothing but covers from EC Comics. I ordered this I feel like almost a couple years ago. I knew there'd be a lot of names in here I was gonna really enjoy. I knew you get some Jack Davis. You get some Jack Davis. Sorry, this is so big it doesn't even fit in the frame, but there's Jack Davis. You got Feldstein. You got Bill Edler. But then I saw obviously Wally Wood. But then Al Williamson. I was like, okay. Basil Wolverton cover. Frank Frazetta covers. Whew. But yeah, this thing's obviously massive, being that it's an artist edition, so I apologize I can't get everything in camera, but I flagged this page because this is now the largest Frank Frazetta reproduction I have, and it is gorgeous. I have a really good art book that has this in here, and it's reproduced well, but it's probably like a quarter of this size. So see this blown up, dang, this is so rad. So rad. Especially seeing Frank Frazetta black and white. Obviously he's known for his paintings, but to see this is just to see the details, and it's so cool. And then I also had to pull out the Basil Wolverton, because I was not expecting to see a Mad cover. Well, I knew there'd probably be some Mad covers, but to get Basil's, this one, this is really cool. Again, I love that the artist edition, you can see the cutout where, you had the body and then the head is kind of cut in too. What's really awesome, and this Wally Wood one, let's see this in frame a little bit. This top part, he's got his pencils and inks on here, but you can see where they've cut in, they have a set print of Frontline Comet, it's the cover. They've got the set print of the side pieces. You can see the numbers are individually cut from there's a 1, there's a 4 cut. There's this so cool. I love seeing this kind of detail. And then classic Wally Wood cover. After the comic code too. Yeah, I'm gonna definitely spend a couple of hours. Definitely gonna spend a couple of hours going through this. But yeah, that's quite happy with that. I was not expecting to get that this month. I ordered this for myself for my birthday last year, so I was expecting it a year ago. So for a reason, I got it now. But that's everything I got for the month of October. Bit of a longer video because I wanted to add this in there, and there's a lot of other books, and I rant about the X-Men. But let me know what you think. I'm sure folks tell me I can stop reading the X-Men. Talk to you next time.